The end. How do I afford med school? Pretty straightforward. Sponsor, Zaddy, sugar daddy. Okay, JK guys, my sugar daddy is the government. So I really didn't know how to talk to you guys about this. That's why I haven't put a video up on my channel. So honestly, I'm just gonna start by doing 5 things that they didn't tell you about paying for med school. And from there, I'll just hit these 5 points, and then I hope you guys will comment down below if you have any specific questions about med school finances, so I can do one big Q&A all about med school money talk video that actually answers the exact questions that you guys want to know. So I'll give you guys the stats about how much it costs, and then I'll get into the rest of the video. See me looking down, I'm looking at my phone to give you guys the correct average stats. But according to the AAMC, it says that the average cost of med school is around like $58,000 per year. Some places will be a little lower than that. Some places, a lot of places, will be higher than that. So that $58K a year is the rough mark. So if we take that $58K a year and multiply that by 4 years, then you roughly get an estimate of how much med school is going to cost you, right? So roughly, you know, 250K cost for med school, right? So how do you pay for med school? That's probably your next question. And honestly, you just got to get used to hearing the word debt. Debt. Lots of debt. So, debt, you know, before I got to med school, I was really anxious about it. Oh, how do I pay for med school? How do I figure stuff out? I want to be debt free. I want to be debt free.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
So, debt, that's out of the way. We got it, we know it. But what type of debt do you have? So, how people afford to pay med schools are usually some combination of loans from the government, of scholarships from their actual institution, external program scholarships or organization scholarships or grants, and then something that has to do with some sort of repayment program. I think I covered all the possible ways. Oh, and then you can have a sponsor, you can have a Zaddy on the side, whatever you want. But those are usually the ways that people afford med school. All of the loans from the government you have to pay back with interest, so that's monetary debt. The internal scholarships that you get from the specific institution, usually you don't have to pay that back, but some schools will either like have, oh, you have to go into this certain like tract or field of medicine, or something like that that's attached to it, or they'll have, you have to obtain a certain grade or grade point average depending on if your school does GPAs or not. I'm just thinking off of some of the scholarship offers that I got. There were some that were linked to my grades. There were some that were linked to the field of medicine or the career that I would choose. So like, there's a lot of different things. So that's specific to your institution that offers those scholarships. Some institutions put those scholarships online to tell you about them, and others are more private about that, and they offer it with each applying year. And then the things that have like sort of a repayment aspect to them, they will pay for your med school. So you personally don't get any debt because they are paying it directly, right? And then I think they also give you a stipend as long as you're committed to going and serving after you graduate and do residency and whatnot. So it all is just, you know, some sort of debt. You're indebted to something, someone, some entity in some sort of way. But it's whether or not, is it monetary or is it, you know, commitments to service, things like that. It just kind of depends what is the best route for you. And like I said, 3 approaches. I want no debt. I just want the least debt possible, and YOLO. I just trying to get the MD and I'll figure it out later. Any one of those approaches is honestly fine, but you know, plan and figure out what you want, what your lifestyle is, and then go from there. So that brings me to my first point of things they don't tell you about when it comes to how to afford med school. Each year does not cost the same amount of money. Yeah, I didn't know that until I got, you know, the breakdown. of med year 1 costs X amount, med year 2 costs this amount, and med 3 costs this. Honestly, I think if I remember correctly, I think my med 3 year costs the most. Yeah, my med 3 year costs the most. I think that's because of, I don't really know how to explain it, but I mean, yeah, my med 3 year costs the most. So point number 2 is exams cost money. Lots of money. So I know you guys took the MCAT or are thinking about taking the MCAT, which you have to take to get to med school. But those exams like that, those like big stress-inducing exams that cost money and, you know, can determine your future, those type of exams, they don't stop there. They actually keep going and going. So step 1 was roughly $610, and that you take at the end of your 2nd year after you finish your like lectures, and then you have to take more exams called step 2 at the end of your 3rd year after you finish your rotations, and sometime in your 4th year you're supposed to take step 2 CK and CS. CK is clinical knowledge, CS is clinical skills. CK costs the same as step 1, I think. So step 2 CK costs $610, and then step 2 CS, the clinical skills one, which is like a OSCE patient exam type of experience. That one costs $1,285. So those are the licensing exams that you're gonna have to take during med school that people don't think about or budget for before they get to med school. They're like, okay, $50K a year, roughly gonna cost me $200K to go to med school, and that's it. No, you gotta live while you're doing that. Yeah. So my school kind of bundles all of that stuff together. So I think if you out-of-state tuition or out-of-state fees in general, I think is like $75K, but that also includes like your cost of living and your like textbooks and stuff like that factored into that. So then when you get the money from your scholarships, your loans, your grants, things like that, it gets paid to the school, and then the school reimburses you or refunds you that money in a check. And the money that you get refunded is your living stipend for that semester. So I guess the third thing I would say is, honestly, textbooks are expensive. There are some books that I have that literally are holy grail for certain subjects that literally cost $50, $60, $75. Textbooks are expensive. Med school resources are expensive. Those tools, the stethoscope, the reflex hammer, the ophthalmoscope, all of those things cost money that you will have to figure out where to get it from. Some schools will like gift you some parts of it. Some people like gift you an iPad, which my school gives us iPads, but we have to buy our own stethoscopes, but we don't have to buy our white coats. Those are gifted to us, obviously. So yeah, some places have to buy their white coats, some places have to buy their scrubs. We don't have to buy their scrubs. We have like a scrub return program where they'll like wash it. You just like, so we don't have to pay for that, thankfully. But there are those things that you don't really think about, but depending on where you go to school, you will have to pay for. So those things all cost money. And you didn't know that until you kind of get into the situation. I didn't know that until I got here. And I was like, oh, we don't have to pay for scrubs. That's nice. Oh, I have to get a stethoscope. I should probably do that because, you know, I start med school in like 2 days. Let me go. The next thing would be hidden costs of interviewing, of trying to get a job. So for the residency programs, you have to interview and then apply to the match process and all of that other jazz. But you have to interview and you have to go to these programs, and then they have statistics online depending on what specialty you want to go into about, you know, how many places should I aim to interview at. One, you have to apply to those places. Then two, when you interview, you have to fly out there. You have to pay for a hotel, although some places, I've heard a lot of the residency programs actually offer to pay for your hotels, so that will help bring down the cost of traveling, but you'll have to book flights. trying to afford that is something they don't tell you until you get to like third year. They're like, oh yeah, interview season will be expensive. So start budgeting, start figuring that out. So honestly, it's just a lot you don't know.
I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 M's in my bank account. Yeah, in my bank account.
You're showing a balance of $0 and 0 cents for both of your accounts.
Oh.
I think number 5 for me, honestly, would be it's okay to be in debt. I know a lot of people are stressed or worried or anxious about how they can afford it, and they say, oh, I don't want to go to med school because I can't afford it. And I don't really think that's a good idea to decide what career you want to go in based off of whether you can afford the schooling / training. I think you should make that decision based off of passion. So hopefully, if there's anyone out there that's watching this video who's really worried or anxious about the cost of med school and that's weighing on your mind, honestly, throw that away. Don't think about it. Aim to get scholarships, apply to scholarships, apply to grants, even now while you're in undergrad, and then also like when you're applying to med school. Don't worry about it, think about it, prepare for it, but don't worry about it. You have a lot more that you're stressed about, because if you're anything like my former self, my former pre-med self, I'm sure you're stressed about that orgo exam coming up. I'm sure you're stressed about memorizing everything for biology. I'm sure you're stressed about whether or not you and your lab partner finish that lab write-up on time. So, you know, you have a lot of other worries and a lot of things that cause you stress, but honestly, debt shouldn't be one of them. So, yeah. This wraps up the end of this video. I really want to hear what you guys think about the topic and what questions that you have about med school finances, because I know a lot of people just ask me to do a video on med school finances, but honestly, like, I don't really know what you want me to say. So ask me specific questions. What are you guys confused about? What would you guys want to know? So then I could just make one big all about med school finances Q&A, your questions answers type of video, so we can go ahead and get exactly to the good stuff. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and see you guys in my next video.